Patreon.com/the Walk Off Podcast. $4 a month gets you in there.
If you're watching this right now and you haven't hit the like button, Billy, get on it. Bug your brother. Tell him to do the same.
All right. I'm going to throw to you now for a Discord thread, Scott.
Right, for Discord. Yeah, there was a thread going there yesterday that was interesting. I know Mustard Tagger. Okay. Mustard Tiger. Mustard Tiger posted the TSN article on Joey Votto and the fact that Nick Kroll, GM for the Cincinnati Reds, stated that he would like Joey Votto to retire in a Reds uniform. But then he had a little caveat where he said, listen, if the Reds are completely out of the playoff picture come the trade deadline, and Toronto, he brought up the Blue Jays specifically, came knocking, that he would consider making a deal.
Now, if there's one thing we know about Joey Votto, it's that his blood runs red. He is proud of his Canadian roots and all that Baseball Canada has done for him. Canadian through and through, right? And I say that with full sarcasm. And if you're not aware, do some homework on Joey Votto and his stance on Baseball Canada. I digress.
There was a statement back in 2018 where he was asked about his feelings on Baseball Canada, and basically his response was, I could take it or leave it. I don't really care. I don't feel like they did all that much for me. I mean, I'm paraphrasing here. He did later come out. Sorry, go ahead, Adam.
This was something to do with him, I think, playing in Toronto. Like it was a trip to Toronto, I think, and they asked about like he was going to be facing a Canadian pitcher in Toronto and kind of what the cool factor of that. And that was kind of the context of this question even getting asked. So and he was like, I don't really fucking give a shit.
Yeah. And then, I mean, he did walk it back afterwards when the Canadian media got a hold of it and just blew it up. Right. But I don't think that going home to Toronto is maybe as high on Joey Votto's priority list as it is on Toronto's priority list to bring him back. I mean, the fan base, not the organization. I don't think that this is something that's going to happen. But anyways, this is where the thread goes from there. Okay. So Forbesby Jr. chimes in and he's like, it'd be cool, but I don't see a fit unless Brandon Belt or God forbid Vladdy go down with an injury. So Votto, of course, plays first base. It's already a pretty darn crowded position. And unless Belt completely falls on his face or is injured and can't be that lefty bat they're hoping him to be, I don't see a place for Votto. The thread carries on. Scott Adams, the Jays fan, gets in on the combo. He says, I get the impression Votto wouldn't ask either. So there's probably no demands being made on Joey's side.
I mean, I think if Joey Votto's asking for a trade to Toronto, it's probably because of, like a bad taco situation. He sees a good fit, wants to finish his career in a competitive environment. But I don't think that Toronto is any more special. Like, if the Yankees needed a first base /DH, I think he would be like, trade me to the Yankees or trade me to the Astros or whoever. Like, I think he may be open to leaving the Reds and not retiring a Red if he sees a contender that has a real shot at a World Series that he fits with. Right.
But I also
don't think he wants to add to a competitive team just for sake of winning a World Series where he's just a bench piece. Like, I think it would have to be a contender where he goes, okay, something just happened over there and I would fit in. I would get regular playing time on a contending team. I think that would have to happen.
And the truth is, with 39-year-old Joey Votto, he's not what he used to be, man. He's not the player he used to be. He has been below average when it comes to offense since last season. He's basically still playing in a Reds jersey because they owe him $25 million. I think that he probably would consider retirement at this point in his career if there wasn't so darn much money on the line, which is another reason why it is possible that the Reds would want to get out from under Votto's contract. Now, the only way I can see the Blue Jays being in on Votto is if they're giving up almost nothing, and this is just a
Like a
money
draft
thing
pick
to
or
add
something, yeah.
a draft pick or something. Like I just don't see the value in Votto that maybe would have been there if we were talking about this 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
Anyways, SCTI finishes this off with poo-pooing on the whole thing. He says, seems like a spring training fluff piece for a team not expected to compete. He's probably in the best shape of his career, though.
All right. Well, I have nothing to add.
Nope, they summed it up pretty well.
They summed it up pretty well. Okay. Speaking of spring training fluff pieces, then we'll add this comment to this. This one comes in from Tunes Days with Johnny. Says, just an FYI, Varsho's spring training slashes last year were 182, 270, 485. So not very good. Here are some other fellas who had bad spring trainings last year as well. Worse than Varsho's this year or last year. Corey Seager, Ian Happ, Reese Hoskins, Jose Ramirez, Alex Bregman, Wander Franco, Brandon Nemo, Bo Bichette, Mike Trout. And I could go on listing a bunch of guys who had very fine seasons despite bad springs. But what's the point? We all know that the point is that this is just spring training. P.S. I do see the irony in using spring training stats to prove a point about not using spring training stats to prove a point. But I think it somehow proves the point even further. Maybe I just springceptioned myself. So tip of the cap to Johnny there. That was a comment that made my morning when I read it. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, this is how I feel about spring training, though, is like some guys, I just feel okay with them showing up to work with a hangover. And I'm just like, Alek Manoah could show up to spring training with a hangover, and I'm going to feel okay. You know? Other guys,
a little perspective. That's what that comment was a little perspective, and it was beautifully put.
There you go. Tunes Days with Johnny. By the way, Tunes Days with Johnny, nice little musical channel. So if you're interested in Johnny's playing his guitar, singing some old classics and stuff. So
nice,
Johnny. I've been listening to your playlists there while I do my video editing lately. So some good old classics from Johnny there. So okay, we're gonna end on this. Actually, you know what, Johnny? We have a new walk-off podcast intro that's been written. Scott and I can't sing, so maybe reach out to me if you want to sing and play the guitar for our new walk-off baseball-themed intro. So there you go. Shoot us a message.
Written by a robot, right?
Written by a
robot?
Well, written by a robot, but in the voice of Bob Seger.
Yes.
So it doesn't get much better than that, right? Doesn't get much better than that. Okay, we're going to end with this. Shout out to the Jay Bird Watching podcast.
Yes.
Scott, you were on it on Thursday. Good podcast, good boys over there. They do something called the podcast game on their show. They got you to participate. You stole their bit and performed it yourself.
Took that bit right away. Yeah.
Anyways, we got inundated with lots of people who joined in on the fun. DMs on Twitter, Instagram, lots of comments on our YouTube videos. So we just wanted to select a few of the ones that made us laugh and forward them with the rest of the ball community so you guys can have a laugh too.
So for those of you who don't know what the game is, basically what you do is you take two Blue Jays from throughout history. Now they're podcast partners, and you've got to name their podcast.
Nailed it. That's it. Okay. So I got a couple to get to here. First one comes in from JH the Act. Says, here's for the podcast game. On the Periphery with Butch Edge and Pat Borders.
Love it.
The puns are, I don't know. I love puns. I know like some people are like comedy snobs about like, oh, and they groan at puns, but like they're a well-written pun that's like just clever enough. You know, that gets me.
I could not agree more, man.
Bone, so.
Yeah, puns get me every time.
All right, next one comes in from D. Cooper. Says, "Oh, by the way, friend of the show, Mark Repchinsky and Jared Saltalamacchia could have a podcast, but don't ask me how to spell it." Very fun. I'm gonna put you on the spot, Scott. Friend of the show, Mark Repchinsky.
Yes. Scrabble.
Spell his name.
Zed.
Wrong.
Oh. No, wait. R Z E P C
Yeah.
H.
No.
Damn it.
There's another Z.
C-I-N.
No, there's another Z. There's another Z. R Z.
Another Z, right.
Here it is. R Z E P C Z Y N S K I. Triple word score. Nailed it.
Love it.
And then I'm also going to add that you could have Frank Catalanato fill in as a guest host from time to time.
Like it. The cat.
Frank Catalanato. Doot doot. I still have that little jingle from the Sportsnet clips from my childhood. So okay, last three all come in from Dulcimerist, who probably submitted a dozen of these. Most of them, maybe not most of them. Some of them were not safe for work, so I can't read them at all. Little toilet humor in some of them. But here's three that I really enjoyed. So, In the Basement. This is Scott Downs and Matt Stairs, downstairs production. I like it. All right. Next one comes in from, I guess, Darnell Coles and Derek Law. It's The Side Dish, the Coles Slaw podcast.
Okay.
Very good fun.
Very funny.
Good fun.
Yeah.
And then the last one is Ryan Dull and Ron Farrelly. So that it's not that interesting. The Fairly Dull podcast.
Very funny. Very funny. I love it.
Thank
you everybody who threw in some names for the podcast. Reading through the comments, I was laughing pretty good. I know a couple people reached out on Twitter with some of their own too. So fun little game there. Feel free if you've thought of something while we're doing this to drop it in the comments here. I always like having a little laugh. Thank you so much to the walk-off community. We really appreciate you. We do this every single week. We comb through your comments, through your interactions, and we do get to as many of them on Mailbag as we can. You can reach out on Twitter at Walk Off Podcast, on Instagram, the Walk Off Podcast. Message us in Discord. If you're looking to join the Discord, shoot us a message, and we will send you a link to do so. Of course, a tip of the hat to all of you supporting us on Patreon. We really do appreciate it. I am going to be in Halifax performing at the Yuck Yucks this weekend. Tickets, the link is in the show notes. Hopefully we see you out. Cheers.
My mom and dad are still in town visiting, so Dad, I will see you for coffee soon.